All right, we're going to have some fun today. I've got one of my greatest football Super Bowl stories to share with you in light of the recent one. And the topic for today is, can you inspire greatness in others? So I made some notes here, but I just have some fun to share with you. So hang on and let's just enjoy this together. Now, first, I want to tell you a little bit about, I'm going to create a logic sequence here, so follow with me. When my son went off to college, I told him, just whatever you do, try to do with excellence, because out there in a world where people are lazy and settle for mediocrity, it becomes easier for you to stand out. And he later confirmed that that advice was spot on for him. And just being punctual, focused, and taking leadership where he could, asking good questions, he really rocked his college experience. And, you know, we all understand what it means to do a good job, but going beyond just doing a good job for ourselves, what can we do to actually inspire someone else to pursue their ambitions passionately? And so that's what I want to share with you today. And I bring this up because the Super Bowl story that really inspired me came back to Super Bowl 49, 10 years ago in 2015. And it was the Patriots and Seahawks. You guys may already know where I'm going and you know the story, but there were just seconds left in the game and the Seahawks had the ball. They were less than 5 yards from scoring the go-ahead touchdown to most likely win the Super Bowl. And instead of using their star running back to just crunch it through and get over the goal line, they decided to throw a pass over the middle, which was intercepted by the Patriots rookie cornerback, Malcolm Butler. And it just sealed the win for the Patriots. Now, despite the fact that I was actually personally rooting for Seattle, I was really moved, especially by Malcolm Butler's post-game interview. And not many people saw it. It was just a brief thing where after all the celebrations and the awards, he was getting ready to walk down that tunnel back to the locker room. And this woman grabbed him and just says, you know, what are you feeling right now? But it was his answer that grabbed me. So hang on for a second, focus, pay attention, listen to me. This was life-changing for me. He really says, you know, she's just asking, how you feeling? And he just said, this is the culmination of a dream of mine. He says, I remember the first day in training camp when I went into that locker room and I saw the names on those lockers of my heroes, you know, Tom Brady, Gronkowski, Hightower. And he says, in that moment, I thought, somehow this year, I'm going to find a way to inspire and impress even my heroes with something I can do. I want to play at that level. I want to do something that would make them even stand up and be impressed. And then he says, and then I saved the Super Bowl for my team. And I did it. I even inspired my heroes. Now, I got to tell you, that's a pretty high bar to set for yourself, to want to impress a Tom Brady. But it poses this really interesting challenge. Can I use the people around me to push myself to greatness? And further, can I inspire others in return at the same time? So I want to dive into this and talk about some of the things I learned from that and some things I want to share with you today. And first of all, let's talk about how you can inspire others, starting off with inspiring yourself. Identify your inspirations. Find those that you admire. Who are they? And I need you to get specific. So if you have a place where you can sit down and take some notes, make this a homework assignment, we'll do it together. If you're just listening to me audibly somewhere else or in the car, on a treadmill, that's fine too. Come back and watch this again later. Write it down, because the mere existence of the people that you admire can inspire you to perform at your best if you want to think that that kind of person wants to make you perform at that level. Just the thought that I'd love to do something that could even impress them, that builds you up. That takes you to another level of performance that you're going to be proud of yourself, and you're going to achieve things you didn't even know you were capable of until you tried and you set that kind of a standard. Now, for me, one of the other things that inspired me was actually the opposite. It was the naysayers. People says, you could never do this. It can never happen. You could never go into Ukraine and do a business. It's all scams there. And I just said, I'm going to prove to you I can create something legitimate and sincere. And doing that was so inspirational for me to prove somebody wrong. But it's equally just as inspirational to take somebody that I love and admire and say, I'd like to perform at a level where people at that level notice me and they're going, wow, that guy's doing something. Now, the other thing is about being an inspiration yourself. And here's the first thing I would say: to live with this awareness. Live with an awareness that somebody might be watching you to see how you navigate life's challenges. And even if no one is watching, imagine that somebody is. You're going to perform better. It's just like when you go to the gym, we always do better when there's a trainer. And part of it for me is when I'm working out with a trainer, I love to push it, and I love him to say, wow, that's your best number yet, or you're really getting stronger, or what I love to hear him say, he goes, you're my best client. Nobody pushes like you do. And so for me, having that helps. I remember back when I did my first 84-day pack challenge, I intentionally picked people that I respected their opinions, and their opinions mattered to me. And what I did was I wrote to 5 people. It was my daughter, business partner, pastor of my church, my dad, and then another business owner, a local friend of mine. And I just said, hey, would you mind for these 84 days, it's 12 weeks, I want to be able to send an email every day just to let you know how I did towards my goal. And it was fitness and also writing. And so every day I would write an email and I would send it to those people with how I did that day. And maybe once a week, one of them would reply and say, wow, you're doing great, or I see you might want to increase your water intake or whatever. But just to know every day that I had to send it out, because the people I respect their opinion were looking to me to see if I would finish this, if I'd be consistent, if I'd do it. That alone, that awareness that somebody's watching me, got me to perform and make life changes that I might not have had just on my own. Because here's the truth: we will do more to not let somebody else down, to not disappoint somebody else, than we will for ourselves. We let ourselves off the hook. It's like, I don't do it today. It's like, whatever. But if you know that people are watching you, or even in your mind imagine that they are, because you don't know, maybe there are, it's going to help you to live and perform at a different level. Now, the other thing then is, point number 2 is showing leadership in the adversity. Approach challenges with a mindset that you're showing somebody dear to you how they could overcome obstacles by the way you do it. One of the other things I personally did on this for myself as well, I wanted to show myself leadership. And what I mean by that is, I had, for instance, one of the reasons I stayed in Ukraine when the war started was I had this idea that, a year from now it'll be done. I'll be back home probably, things will be at peace. But I want to be able to look back and be proud of myself, how I handle myself today in the adversity. So do that. Wherever you're at, whatever your struggle is, wherever the challenges you're dealing with today, it'll cycle through. Imagine yourself a year from now when it's cleared to be able to look back and say, I'm really proud of you, Mark, from a year ago. I'm proud of how you kept your mind straight. You meditated and kept yourself in a state of peace. You weren't afraid of the challenge. And because of that, I'm really proud of the way I handled myself. Do it in the moment, thinking about that person a year from now, looking back. And then third is embracing the challenge. Just adopt that mental mantra that says, if it's too hard for you, it's just right for me. And in doing so, the inspiration you have is to say, I'm going to operate at a level that's going to be harder than other people, but because I do, it'll become easy for me. And it'll always be hard for them. Getting through to the other side of a challenge, just like pushing through this wall. And I somehow in my mind, I imagine almost like cellophane, like if there's a big sheet of plastic wrap in front of you, and it's this thing you got to push against. Once you break through, you don't have to go back. You've done that. If you ever come up against a similar challenge, you already know, I can do that. I've done it before. And so every time you do, you expand yourself. You expand what you're capable of. Finally, compete with yourself. Aim at being slightly better today than you were yesterday. Just slightly. One little thing. A little harder, a little more focused, disciplined. And if you do that every day, the incremental compounding growth is phenomenal. And in turn, your personal growth in turn is going to inspire others. Your dedication to that self. Okay. As I go into this closing part, I want you to understand that just by living with the intention and the striving for excellence, not only it elevates your own life, but also lights a path for others to discover and live out their own greatness. And in doing so, you can inspire others. I make it my goal when I communicate, when I talk to somebody, when I come in a room. I've been doing this probably 20 years since I went through a Brennan Burchard weekend workshop and had us come up with these exercises, and I've carried it with me. And it's this: carry with you an intention of how you want to be when you're around people. And I came up with these 3 words. When I interact, when I'm with you now, when I'm in person with somebody, family, friends, kids, having a good time with a brother, I want to be fun, inspiring, and wise. And having that intention set in my mind, my chances of delivering that is much more than just showing up without a thought of how I want to be in the world. So to close this out, and if you're doing this as exercise, here's the homework. I'm going to give you some reflection questions. First of all, who inspires you? So go ahead and think about who makes you want to be your better self. Write that down. Who is that? Who are those people? If there's one, that's great. If there's a couple of them, it's great. Now, number 2 is, what about them? What specific qualities they have that inspires you? That's really important. What are the qualities they have that inspires you? Because that's in you to develop. Next, perform as if you're being observed. So do you perform better when you know somebody that you respect is watching you? Then put yourself in that place, that you're always an example, whether somebody's watching you or not. And finally, modeling it for others. And here's the question: if other people are watching you and they wanted to mirror your life in some aspect, whatever they're observing, so they could better themselves, and you knew that somebody was watching you because they want to do it, they want to mirror what you're doing, they want to be like you, you're thinking right now, yeah, but there's probably a lot of areas that they probably wouldn't want to mirror. Well, what are those areas? What would you change if you knew somebody wanted to just follow you and mirror you in order for them to have a better life? Well, that's it, brothers. I am challenged and inspired that every one of us, if we can live with that standard of thinking about how can we inspire others to greatness, it also lifts ourselves into greatness. Have a great day. I look forward to talking to you in the next one.